welcome to Nintendo Engineers. I'm your host Chris Tysis, and things are getting really hot in here at the moment. We're getting here in Australia close to the middle of January, so it's the middle of summer, and I'm just cooling off here at the moment because even having a shirt on is killing me at the moment. So I'm just cooling down. But this is the NNN show, episode 101, and we've got a few things to talk about for the new year. Let me just put this to one side. There we go. Just cooling off, just in the back here. So, the first thing is for the new year for 2019 and the first NNN show of the year after our episode 100 that talked about the history of the channel, is the January Nintendo Direct. Now, nothing's been confirmed, but there is a high expectation that the January Direct will be happening. And I'm sure that it will happen at some point. Now, I think it could possibly happen on the rumoured date of January the 10th. Sounds like a legitimate date. Could happen on the 16th. Could happen on the 20th. Could happen on the 25th. No one really knows when that date will be. And I think it's just going to be one of those things where you just have to wait for and see what will happen. I'm not too sure when it will happen. But I guess the speculation is mounting about what would be the talk. Now, they could talk about Bayonetta 3. They could talk a bit more about Metroid. They could reveal a Metroid Prime trilogy port for the Switch, would be a bit nice. I think the focus will probably be in Animal Crossing. I feel like that's a game that's probably not going to come out at the end of this year. It will come out somewhere around the middle or earlier. I think they'll probably reveal a fair bit of details about that. And I think that would be the next big game to sell and do well, seeing that it's sold over 10 million, which I would be very happy to play once again, because I had a lot of fun playing New Leaf, and I think lots of people did. I know people who's played hundreds of hours, even into the thousands, and some people buying multiple of copies because the game only has one save file. So people, despite that, bought multiple of copies. The same thing with Pokemon, I suppose, having the one save slot for doing stuff like that. So that's a possibility. So at this point, no one really knows when this January Nintendo Direct will happen. I think it's highly likely there will be one. Nintendo likes to kick-start the year and start to build a bit of keeping that momentum going, and for people to get excited about what will be happening on the Switch for this year. So my tip is going to be Animal Crossing with a group of different games. Well, Yoshi's game will probably be promoted. Yoshi's... I've completely forgotten, to be honest. It's the cardboard version of Yoshi's, not Woolly World, but he's gone into a cardboard world. So I think you'll definitely see more information about that. I think that will be released in the first 6 months as well, and that will be interesting to see what will happen with that game. So do jot down in the comments what you think you might expect from a possible Nintendo Direct for that. Now, the next part that we'll have a little chat about is Mario Kart Tour. Now, there hasn't been a lot of information about that, but there is still an expectation of that game to be released by March 2019, which is really only 2 or 3 months away. Now, some people might say, oh, it could be delayed and all that sort of thing, but if you look at the past mobile games, you know, Animal Crossing, Pocket Camp, and Fire Emblem Heroes and that, they normally announce the game, well, they already have, but do a direct on it or reveal a whole lot of information about that game, and they normally release it between 1 or 2 months afterwards. So it's a pretty quick succession of information bomb dropping and then the actual launch of the game. So it's quite possible that during the January Direct that we might hear something about it, or during a separate, information video about that game for your smart devices. Hopefully mine is still... It's a bit old now, but hopefully I can play it for that to be released in the next couple months. So I'm thinking that it will probably still be released by March 2019. But I'm pretty curious. I'm a huge Mario Kart franchise fan. It's probably my favourite series ever. I've played every probably single title of it to death, mainly, except for the very first one and Super Circuit. But I'm keen to see how they do it. How do they make money for it? Are they going to charge people for certain characters or for courses, or are they just going to charge you $5 or $10 on the on for your iPhones and Androids? If they just do an outright price, I think that would probably be easier. I think people would probably be happy to pay $5 or $10 for a Mario Kart legit game. I don't think people will be too upset about it. It's a well-known franchise, and people, Mario Kart has already sold 10 million on the Switch, and people buy that for $80 a pop, and $300 for a console for those in America, and $470 here in Australia. I don't think paying $10 would be so bad to get that whole package there, and they can probably do download content in terms of additional courses and characters. I think that might be the way to do it. Maybe they make the game with just a small selection of characters and courses, and then they get you to pay for additional courses and characters. That might be the way to do it. I think that could be a way that they could do that, making the game free or charging you up front. So there's a couple pricing models that they've done, and even Nintendo's admitted that they've messed up a couple times, like with Super Mario Run, and they're trying to get that right. So hopefully they'll get around to it. So those two things are really interesting, the January Direct and Mario Kart Tour. Third thing is what's happening with this channel. As we know, we've done a couple groups, the Canberra Buy and Sell and Bargains group, which is going pretty slowly, but that was expected. And the Canberra Nintendo Ninja Club, which is for Canberra people, and that's been going pretty well. We're nearly at 90 members, which is fantastic. And events will be starting up in February. And one of the things that we'll be doing will be getting out the handy cam in the middle of January and doing a few different videos, possibly around the house and around Canberra, which will be a lot of fun. And by the end of January, we'll be doing reviews again of games, and we'll be changing the format of how we do that, because we used to do it with screenshots, and people didn't mind that, but I noticed some people disliking them at times, and that was a little disappointing. And I think we might have to do sort of video type ones, so showing off the gameplay and doing a voiceover thing, because that's how all the video game reviews are done. And unfortunately, it's a bit like text reviews. I think people mostly look at the gameplay and sort of ignore what the reviewer has to say. It's the same thing with text reviews. You sort of scroll down and skip all the power graphs, and you just look at the final score and you go, "Oh, it's a 7. Oh, well, I won't buy that game." So that's my little fear and worry, that if I go to gameplay footage, that people just ignore what I've got to say and they just go, "Well, what's the final score? What's the gameplay like?" and not really focus on the actual content. So that's going to be really interesting too. So that's what I'll be doing with those changes. So the handy cam's coming back out in the next less than a couple weeks, and then we'll get back to doing reviews by the end of January, and then those real life events will be starting up next month in February. We might get out the handy cam out, the video recorder, and film the first event, and we'll see how that goes, and that's going to be interesting to see how that all goes. I'm a little nervous, but that's the same thing with starting up any sort of projects like that. So I am keen to see how that will go. So I think that's all we've got for episode 101 for this time. But I'm going to keep myself cool in the hot weather. And hopefully next week it's going to be much cooler, which is going to be great for me doing videos. So hopefully some news comes up, because it's always a really quiet time of the year. So yes, hopefully that Nintendo Direct happens, because it will give me something to talk about. So that is it for me, and I shall see you next time.